Great. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining. And also, yeah, thanks for the opportunity to give you an update on what we're doing at Wildfell. So, really, just going to have a quick run through in terms of the project design, um, where we are with the development and progress so far. Um, so, starting off, just a little reminder. In sort of conjunction with the sustainability webinars in terms of why are we acting now for nature recovery, and quite a useful little cartoon from back in the bad old days of the pandemic, which shows the little initial wave of COVID, and that was our big focus at the time. But beyond that was the a looming recession. Beyond that, even larger issue of climate change, and then this massive sort of purple wave of biodiversity collapse. So, in terms of us as a business and caring for our environment and going beyond talking about it and demonstrating it, through the Evergreen Farm, we are acting on those two large waves. Um, and getting projects on the ground. And again, a reminder on the Evergreen Fund. So all I'm about to talk about now is being made facilitated by your input into ground control. So, every bit of cost saving that's made, extra margin that's squeezed out of a project or a contract, helps give us more funds to invest in Evergreen, and the sort of the unique way that it's funded by taking a proportion of profits. So everyone is contributing to what the fund can deliver, and with the Wildfell Centre, we've focused on land for nature recovery, and that's going to be a focus for us going forward. And just a reminder that in terms of our equity investments and what we can generate from the land, all goes back into the Evergreen Fund, so we can do more of the same sort of work. So just a quick kind of reminder in terms of what Wildfell is. We purchased just under 300 acres of farmland back in May 2021, up in Wethersfield, North Essex. And in terms of the broad objectives, it's around maximising the environmental potential of the site. So it's not around, the specifics of either carbon or biodiversity. It's really maximizing all the benefits. So looking at water quality, flood alleviation, obviously carbon in trees and the soil, alongside biodiversity. So really trying to maximize the benefits of the asset that we've got there. Leaving an environmental legacy is incredibly important to us. So, that's on behalf of everyone that works at ground control. So, our future generations can look back and say, what an amazing project this was. This is what has been delivered by ground control and all those associated with it. Another key element is around developing and sharing best practice. So we're learning a hell of a lot as we go. That this is a groundbreaking project, and we want to be able to share that knowledge so that we can amplify the effect that we can have as Evergreen, as an organisation. So sharing that with our clients, other landowners, so that we can really support other projects that are looking to do the good that we're doing. And in terms of the habitat types that we had when we bought the land, just under 230 acres of arable land. So these are all the sort of the lighter green areas around the existing woodlands, so 55 acres of existing woodlands in the centre of the site, and then there's 14 acres of grassland, so sort of three main areas, one in the woodland, one up to the north, and then on the river corridor down in the southwest of the site. A number of existing in hedgerows, especially around the boundary, but like many farms these days, a lot of the hedgerows have come out over time, especially ones that dividing up fields. There's gaps in the hedgerows. We've got 13 ponds on site, really valuable habitat, and in various different conditions. And then there's a ditch network, both permanently wet, so running ditches, and seasonally dry. And then we've got really important element of the site, which is a river corridor down in the southwest. So we've got a boundary with the River Pant down in that section of the site. So one of the first stages of the project was really stakeholder engagement. We were really keen to engage with as many people as we could, so to also, as well as sharing the knowledge that we're gaining, is actually utilizing knowledge from specialists as well. So local community was key, so immediate local residents. We've got 5 properties that sit within our land, so engaging with them, letting them know what our proposals are, getting their feedback and input. Local authorities, so got very strong links with Essex County Council through other projects we've done over the years, but also they're really interested in what we're doing up at Wildfell. Braintree District, which is the local planning authority, and the Wethersfield Parish Councils, which represent the immediate sort of local community, which is really important. The Forestry Commission, in terms of getting support for and making sure that we're doing the best woodland creation project that we can on the site. Essex Wildlife Trust is another key one. The Environment Agency, who've been really supportive again, and we've learned a lot from them, and they're supporting us financially as well. RSPB, the Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group in East Anglia, again, which has been a really useful link in a way to sort of communicate out to other landowners in the area, and also a wide variety of local wildlife groups. An exciting collaboration has come looking at pollinators. So we've supported as a business the Bumblebee Conservation Trust, Plant Life and Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew for a number of years, and it was really the opportunity to bring them together to work on the site, and they've been carrying out surveys last year and putting together a report and recommendations, which is combining the extensive specialist knowledge of those 3 organisations, and they'll help us with the sort of detailed design of our proposals, especially looking at pollinators. Another critical part of the project is the scientific basis to it. We want to have a science-based project so we can demonstrate clearly what we've achieved and what we will be achieving over the years. And the starting point for that is a robust baseline. So we've carried out habitat baseline surveys to see what habitat types we've currently got on site. We've looked at protected species surveys, looking at bats, birds, great crested newts, reptiles, otter, water vole, mammals. So a number of individual species that we've surveyed, and utilising our superb colleagues in Ground Control Eco, who've been out surveying all times of day and night over the last year, and also we've had input from volunteers along that to help out with that as well. Looking at pollinators and flora, as I've just talked about. Also soil surveys, so looking at the levels of nutrients within the soil and importantly carbon, so we can see how that changes and evolves over time. And looking at above ground biomass, so the trees and woody shrubs on site which are currently storing carbon, so we can see again how that develops, and using the latest technology, so using drones for a number of different surveys and also helping with that baseline. So we've got drone footage of the site as it stands currently, and then we can refly those same flight lines in the future to see how things are changing. And a few key highlights from that baseline: we had 7 species of bat, which I think is the majority of bats in the UK. Two rare ones, especially in Essex, which is the Barbastell and Natura's bats. Great crested newts in 2 of the ponds, which is excellent. Brown hare, fox, weasel, a wide variety of birds, and some key ones to note there: red kite, barn owl, skylark. Also picked up otter on our one of our wildlife trap cameras, which was great to see in the river, showing that the river must be in a reasonable state currently, and a couple of rare bees and wasps that were picked up through the pollinator surveys. So that sort of gives us a good starting point, understanding what the site currently has on it and how we can build on that in terms of increasing abundance, but also diversity of the species. So we've developed these proposals, and the main, or one of the most significant elements, is 125 acres of new predominantly native broadleaf woodlands. So it runs round from the west side of the site, connecting up the existing woodland in the middle, and then continues down to connect up with the river corridor down in the southwest. So giving that real additional scale to the woodland and that connectivity. And then 60 acres of habitat creation, so that there's a boundary of woodland edge and scrub that will sit between the existing and new woodland and the grasslands, and a swathe of species-rich grassland that will run around the south side of the site, along with a number of new ponds going in, and a community traditional orchard as well, which will be part of the scheme. We're looking to restore the existing woodlands, so it's actually an ancient woodland site, but has had very little management over the last sort of really 50 or 60 years, so we can really improve the condition and quality of that existing woodland by bringing it back into management. Pond restoration, so looking at selecting some of our key ponds on site and improving those, and also hedgerow restoration. So we want to reinstate a boundary hedge to the whole boundary of the site, so filling in gaps, replanting new sections of hedgerow, and also some of the internal hedgerows, reinstate those. Really important feature in the landscape hedgerows in terms of connecting up elements of habitat in the wider landscape and linking out from our site into the wider landscape, as well as connecting up elements within our site as well. And just to give you a kind of a forecast Google Eye view, potentially in 30 years time, of what the site might look like. So there's that swathe of woodland running across the whole site. We've got important areas of open space, new footpath links through the site, and then the sort of transitional habitats of scrub, woodland edge, through to the wildflower meadows, hay meadows, linking through the site. So hopefully this is a glimpse into the future. And on the website, on the Project Wildfell page, there's an excellent slider that's been developed, so you can see how the transition works over time. So well worth a look at that. So in terms of progress, we started works on the ground after the design stages back in 2021. We planted up the COP26 First Avenue and dedicated each of those trees to an environmental champion that ground control wanted to recognise. We planted just over 500 meters of new native hedgerow, that really important feature, and it was great to have ground control volunteers as part of that alongside some of our clients. We started off with the woodland grass seeding. So when we're converting an arable field to woodland, we need to establish a basic ground cover crop. So we planted up, we seeded grass areas that we'll then be planting the trees into. Also, as part of that transition from arable to wildflower and species-rich grasslands, we need to reduce the nutrient value of that land. So really go against what previous farmers have been doing on the land for generations. So we're planting a really nutrient-hungry grass mix, and that is established now and is taking up nutrients, and that will produce a crop for silage as well, which will basically take the nutrients off site. Also, the wildflower meadow, there's an area of lower quality or lower nutrient soil, which we've already prepared and sowed for wildflower meadow down in the sort of southwest section of the site. So good initial progress being made there. Significant progress on the woodlands. So over the winter, we've done the first two sections of woodland up in the northeast section of the site, about 50 acres altogether, and we had to put up 3 kilometers of deer and rabbit fencing to protect the new trees. So that's the blue line running around those 2 compartments. We've planted just short of 47,000 trees over the winter to create these 2 new areas of woodland, and a wide variety of species used. So 22 tree species and 12 native shrub species, and that's really important to give these new woodlands resilience against a changing climate, and also potentially pests and disease, which could come in and affect certain species. So by having a really wide range of species, it helps that resilience of the woodlands. You know, it's going to be a permanent feature in the landscape, so we do have to look ahead at how it could be affected over the next 50, 100 years and beyond. And in terms of those environmental benefits, this first area of woodlands is forecast to take up over 7,000 tons of carbon dioxide by year 50. So, you know, real value in terms of climate change, as well as the other values and benefits of woodlands, such as biodiversity, water quality, the social and landscape impact of creating new woodland. Other areas of progress, we've created 5 new ponds on the site, and ponds are a real magnet for wildlife. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they develop and attract new species into the area, both of plants and insects, and then birds and animals that will be sort of feeding on those insects and then utilizing that new water resource. We've got 3 of the existing ponds that we've started restoration on, so dredging out the leaf litter and opening up the canopy, the surrounding trees to let more light in, which will help the restoration and redevelopment of those really valuable resources in the landscape. We've also planted another 750 meters of native hedgerow. Again, we've had a number of you up there sort of in February to help out with that, which has been great. But that, really continuing on with rebuilding that really important habitat. In terms of the next steps, so the work we're going to be progressing with and are progressing with at the moment, we're creating 5 new ponds, 2 existing ponds to be restored. We're managing that temporary grassland and the new grassland. We've got phase 2 of the woodland creation, so about another 50,000 trees to go in the autumn and winter. We've got the orchard to go in, the scrub planting, more hedgerow planting. We're building a workshop and storage barn on the site as well, so we'll actually have a permanent structure for welfare facilities and host visitors and make the most of the site, and there will be further volunteer opportunities going forward as well. Just a quick one in terms of the projects as a whole. We're really keen to show that nature recovery can be financially viable. So this is really important for landowners, such as farmers, to convince them to set aside some of their land for nature recovery. So really looking at where income streams can come in to support these projects going forward, and we've managed to source funding through the Forestry Commission, through their new grants. We'll be looking at future income potentially from woodland carbon, or it might be we use the carbon units that we're generating to do some offsetting for the business in our strives towards our net zero targets. Biodiversity units, we're negotiating with a buyer at the moment, which should be generate a significant amount of income for us. We've had support from clients and the Environment Agency, being one, Essex and Suffolk Water, and Natural England for our pond creation. So we really are finding ways of generating income through nature recovery. And another important element is the partnerships that we're developing. So we're one of the founding estates for the North Essex farm cluster, so bringing I think it's up to 40 farmers and landowners together to work as a collective on nature recovery, amongst other things. Ties in with the Essex Local Nature Partnership, which is driven by the County Council, and also the Climate Action Commission. The Essex Forest Initiative, again, we're linking up and sharing knowledge with them, alongside the Essex Wildlife Trust and the RSPB, alongside Forestry England. So hopefully that's given a useful update in terms of what we've been achieving on the ground up at Wildfell. From my perspective, it's an incredibly exciting and groundbreaking project, and it's great to be involved with that. And I think as a business, we should be very proud of what we're doing with this project. It is groundbreaking. It's a pilot project, and it's another example of us as a business demonstrating through actions our commitment to the environment, to climate change, and to sustainability. So yeah, really, if there's any questions, please jump in. I don't know if we've got any on the chat.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That was great. We've got one in the chat just now from Amanda asking if there are any more dates for GC staff to volunteer to support the project at Wildfell, as there's been a couple of inquiries recently. Are there any future dates for people to volunteer?
We haven't got specific dates as yet, but we are looking at tree planting starting up in the middle of November, and there'll be lots of opportunities from sort of November onwards. We're also looking at other opportunities potentially over summer for other operations, but that's sort of to be advised at the moment.
Thanks very much. There's a question there from Chris asking what determines the spacing between trees when they're being planted?
The spacings are the equivalent of 2,500 stems per hectare, so trees per hectare, and that works out at 2-meter spacings. So you plant pretty close together, and that allows for the stronger plants to come through and get established, and it allows for some sort of failures over time. So that's the spacings that we've gone for.
Interesting. Justine's asking if we are looking at buying any additional sites through Evergreen.
Yes. So our approach with Evergreen is transitioning. So we've still looking at our equity investments, but through the funding from ground control and also funds that we hope to generate through biodiversity units and carbon, we are looking at other sites and alternative ways of supporting landowners where we don't actually own sites as well. So it's our focus going forward to create more wildfells.
Brilliant. Mark's asked a question there about whether we can share the slides, and I'll answer that for you. Mark will do that at the end once this goes out. Brian is asking if we have an idea of how many staff will be involved in planting trees in November to celebrate our 50th anniversary. Do we know that?
I don't off the top of my head, but I'm sure we'll be getting as many as we can. We're committing over 1,000 trees will be dedicated to each member of staff, and also we've got 50 of the traditional orchard trees which we'll be planting as part of our anniversary celebrations.
There's also a question here about sorry, I can't speak. Will we be looking to offer volunteering to the new occupants of the MOD site to support the project in the future?
Certainly, that's going to be quite an interesting one, and we are engaging with the parish council, and we hope to sort of, as we develop the site, sort of getting schools and local organisations involved. But we are watching with interest because the MOD site is potentially going to be used as a centre for asylum seekers. So there could be up to 1,500 new residents on the border of our site there.
Right. And then the last question I've got in the chat is around, is there any scope to purchase sites that are a bit further north so that others within the business can volunteer without too much travel? I'm sure that probably comes into considerations when they're thinking about these things, but
absolutely. So that the first site was we wanted to have within striking distance of head office, and also so that we could manage it more easily. The second site we are looking at is still in the south, but I think as we get momentum behind this, there's no reason why we couldn't start looking further north, and to be honest, we get more land for our money the further north we go. We haven't started actively looking, and we haven't identified any sites up north, but certainly there's the opportunity there.
Right, thank you very much. I know we're slightly over time, so are there any other last minute questions before we finish up? No, everyone good? Okay, doke. Well, thanks, Chris. That was really informative. Appreciate you taking the time to deliver that session. We'll put this up on YouTube probably by the end of today. So yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks very much. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Chris.